We were being watched through security cameras inside the house. We tried to escape, but it won't let us go. We have been searching for months. Every house was either too expensive or falling apart, and it was starting to feel like we'd never find the right one. Then, out of nowhere, this one appeared. A 2-story house, a big backyard, quiet neighborhood. Perfect. And the price? Suspiciously low. It was so cheap that I thought it had to be a mistake. When we went to see it, I expected the worst. Maybe it had water damage, a bad foundation, something to explain why no one had taken it yet. But no, it was in perfect condition. The walls were clean, the floors solid. Even the paint looked fresh. It felt like someone had taken really good care of it. Too good, considering the price. Emma and I exchanged a look. We were both thinking the same thing. What's wrong with it? The real estate agent, Tom, was way too eager. He kept smiling, kept pushing the paperwork at us like he wanted us to sign right now. When we asked why the previous owners left, his answer was too quick. They moved suddenly. Work relocation, I think. People don't just abandon houses like this. We asked about repairs, past issues, crime in the area, anything that would explain why it was still on the market. Tom just waved it all off. Nothing serious. A little electrical work was done a few years ago. No big deal. It didn't make sense, but we wanted a home. And this one? It was perfect. We signed the papers. Move-in day was exhausting. The house had that weird, stale smell, not bad, just like it hadn't been used in a while. The air inside was too still, like a place that had been waiting. That's when we saw them. Cameras. Tiny black security cameras mounted in almost every room. The living room, the hallways, the kitchen, even the bedroom. And they weren't pointing outside like normal security cameras. They were aimed inward, like whoever set them up wasn't watching for intruders. They were watching whoever lived here. Emma laughed. I guess the last owners were paranoid. I didn't laugh. I checked the walls. Some of the wires had been cut, and some led down into the basement. The cameras were off, at least from what I could tell. Maybe the last owners had some weird habits. Maybe they had kids and wanted to keep an eye on them. Maybe they worked from home and needed surveillance. There were plenty of explanations, but none of them felt right. I figured I'd take them down later. We spent the day unpacking, trying to make the place feel like ours. As the sun started setting, the house started to change. It was subtle at first. The warm, welcoming feeling we had during the day started to fade. The rooms felt bigger, like there was too much empty space. It was that strange feeling you get when you realize you're alone in a place that shouldn't feel lonely. Neither of us said anything about it. We just kept moving, kept pretending everything was normal. That night, I couldn't sleep. Lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, I felt off. The house was too quiet. I could hear my own breathing, the faint hum of the fridge downstairs. But there was something else, something I couldn't quite place. Then, click. A tiny mechanical sound. A click like a switch being flipped. I sat up, my heart pounding. It had come from the hallway. I held my breath, listening. Nothing. Just silence. Emma shifted beside me, but didn't wake up. I glanced toward the bedroom door. It was open just a crack, just enough to see the dark hallway outside. I told myself it was nothing. The house settling. The wind. Old houses make noises. But deep down, I knew something wasn't right. For the first time in years, I felt watched. The next morning, I convinced myself I had imagined it. Houses creak. Old pipes make noises. It was normal. That's what I told myself. But Emma wasn't convinced. Over breakfast, she frowned at the hallway. "Did you hear anything last night?" she asked. I hesitated. "Like what?" "I don't know." She shrugged, stirring her coffee. "Just weird sounds." I forced a laugh. "Yeah, the house settles a lot. Nothing serious." She didn't look convinced. And honestly, neither was I. By noon, we were fully moved in. Boxes emptied, furniture in place. The house looked more like home. That helped. The sun streamed in through the windows, making everything feel warm and normal. But then Emma noticed something. "Did you move my book?" she asked. I looked up from my laptop. "What book?" "The one I left on the nightstand." She frowned. "It's on the floor now." I shrugged. "Maybe it fell." She stared at it for a second longer, then sighed and picked it up. "Yeah, maybe." We both went back to what we were doing, but the moment stuck with me. I remembered how careful she had been unpacking her things. The book had been in the middle of the nightstand when I saw it last. It couldn't have just slipped off. Little things like that kept happening. I'd put my phone down, turn around, and when I looked back, it would be on the other side of the table. Emma swore she left the bathroom light off, but we'd come back to find it on. Drawers we hadn't touched were slightly open. Small things, easy to dismiss. That night, I woke up again, not because of a sound this time, because of a feeling. I opened my eyes, and for a second, I didn't know why I was awake. Everything was silent. The room was dark, except for the faint glow from the streetlight outside. Emma was asleep next to me. Then I noticed something. The bedroom door. We had closed it before bed. I was sure of it, but now it was slightly open, just enough to see the hallway beyond it. A chill ran through me. I stared at the gap, my pulse quickening. Maybe Emma had gotten up to use the bathroom and left it open. That was the logical explanation. But as I watched, I felt something. A presence. It was like standing in a room with someone you can't see, but you know they're there. I held my breath. The hallway was dark. Too dark. The light from outside should have illuminated it more. It was like the darkness there was heavier, like it was waiting. I didn't move, didn't blink, just stared at that open door. Minutes passed. Nothing happened. Eventually, I forced myself to look away, pulled the blanket up to my chin, turned on my side, and pretended to sleep. But I didn't. I stayed awake, listening, waiting, and right before I drifted off, I swore I heard it again. That same quiet, mechanical click. The next day, I tried to forget about it. I told myself I was being paranoid, that the stress of moving was making me imagine things. But the feeling didn't go away. If anything, it got worse. Emma seemed off too. She wasn't saying much, but I could tell she was uneasy. The way she glanced at the hallway. The way she hesitated before stepping into a dark room. She wasn't sleeping well either. By evening, the house felt heavier, like the air itself had thickened. We had the TV on, trying to fill the space with noise. Something light. Some sitcom with a laugh track. But neither of us were really watching. Then it happened. All at once, every camera in the house turned on. We didn't notice at first. The TV was on, and we were distracted. But then my phone buzzed. A notification. Live stream active. I frowned and unlocked my screen. The notification was from an app one didn't recognize. Some security software I had never downloaded. Then Emma's phone buzzed too. I looked up. She was already staring at her screen. Slowly, she turned to me. "What is this?" I tapped the notification. A black screen appeared. Then the video feed started. At first, I thought it was showing us sitting on the couch. But something was wrong. The lighting was different. The furniture was arranged slightly off. It wasn't live. It was recorded footage. And not from today. I watched as the video played. A woman, someone who wasn't Emma, walked into frame. She sat on the couch, right where Emma was sitting now. She turned toward the camera. Her eyes were wide. She looked scared. Then she whispered something. I turned the volume up, heart pounding. The audio was grainy, but I heard it. "He's still watching." Emma grabbed the remote and muted the TV. "What the hell is this?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. The footage continued. The woman kept staring at the camera, like she knew someone was watching. Then, behind her, a man walked into frame. He was tall, wearing dark clothes. But the way he moved, slow, deliberate, it made my skin crawl. He walked up behind her, but she didn't react. She didn't even seem to know he was there. Then, Right before the video cut off, he turned his head, looked directly at the camera, and smiled. The screen went black. Emma stood up so fast the couch creaked. Turn it off? I tried. I swiped at my phone, but the app wouldn't close. It just stayed open, stuck on that black screen. Then, before I could do anything else, all the lights in the house flickered. For a split second, the room went completely dark. When the lights came back on, every single camera in the house had turned to face us. I didn't move. I couldn't breathe. Emma whispered, "We need to leave." I wanted to agree. I wanted to run. But then my phone buzzed again. Another notification. One viewer watching. My hands were shaking. I stared at my phone, at the notification glowing on the screen. One viewer watching. Emma was already grabbing her coat. Turn them off. Just turn them off. I tried. I swiped at the app, pressed every button I could, but nothing worked. The camera stayed on. The feed was still running. Then, another message popped up. Don't turn them off. I froze. That wasn't a system message. Someone had sent it. Emma must have seen my face because she stopped moving. What? I turned the phone so she could see. She stared at the screen, then looked up at me. Is this a joke? I didn't answer. I couldn't. The air in the room felt heavy, like we were being pushed down. My skin prickled. Then click. That same mechanical click I had heard before. This time, it wasn't coming from the hallway. It was coming from the camera above the TV. I slowly looked up. The tiny red light was on. The lens, so small I hadn't even noticed it before, was aimed directly at me. I grabbed a chair, climbed up, and ripped the camera off the wall. The wires snapped, dangling from the ceiling. The moment I did, my phone buzzed again. Another message. That was rude. Emma gasped. What the hell? I didn't wait. I started yanking down every camera I could see. The one in the corner of the living room. The one near the bookshelf. The tiny one above the hallway entrance. Every time I pulled one down, my phone buzzed again. Stop. You're making a mistake. I can still see you. I ripped down the last camera in the room and threw it across the floor. Emma grabbed my arm. We need to get out of here. Now. I nodded. We ran for the front door. Emma twisted the lock, yanked the handle. The door wouldn't open. She tried again. It stuck. I grabbed the handle, pulled with everything I had. Nothing. It was like the door wasn't even locked, just held shut by something stronger than us. The air felt thick. The lights flickered again. Then my phone buzzed one more time. Go to the basement. I stared at the message. My hands felt ice cold. Emma saw it too. She shook her head. No. No way. The house groaned. A deep, heavy sound, like wood bending under pressure. Like something inside the walls was moving. Then, from behind us, a door creaked open. We turned. The basement door, which had been closed all night, was now wide open. Darkness stretched beyond it. A staircase leading down into nothing. Then my phone buzzed again. I'm waiting. Neither of us moved. We just stood there, staring at the open basement door. The darkness inside felt different, like it wasn't just the absence of light. It was something deeper, something that didn't want us to see what was down there. Emma gripped my arm. We're not going down there. I didn't want to either. Every instinct in my body screamed at me to stay away. But the house wasn't giving us a choice. The front door wouldn't budge. The windows wouldn't open. And that message, I'm waiting. Who was waiting? I swallowed hard. Maybe there's a breaker box down there. Maybe if we turn off the power, the cameras will stop. Emma didn't look convinced, but she nodded. We needed to do something. I stepped forward, my feet heavy like I was moving through water. Emma followed, gripping the back of my shirt like she was afraid I'd disappear if she let go. The stairs creaked under our weight. The air grew colder with each step. I reached for the light switch on the wall, but when I flipped it, nothing. The bulb overhead stayed dark. Of course. We moved slowly, our eyes adjusting. Shapes started to form in the darkness. An old wooden workbench, rusted metal shelves, stacks of boxes covered in dust. Then I saw it. In the center of the room, against the far wall, a chair. A single wooden chair, positioned directly in front of something large. I stepped closer. The air smelled stale, like old paper and something rotten. Then I realized what I was looking at. It was a wall of monitors. Not new ones. Old, dusty screens stacked on top of each other. The kind you'd see in a security room decades ago. Every single one was off. But the chair, the dust around it was disturbed. Someone had been sitting there, watching. Emma whispered, "What is this?" I had no answer. My chest felt tight. I reached out, hesitating, then pressed one of the buttons on the monitor. The screen flickered. Then static. Then a video feed. Not just one. All the monitors turned on at once, showing different parts of the house. The living room, the kitchen, the upstairs hallway, even our bedroom. Some were playing footage from earlier that day. Some from weeks ago, before we had even moved in. And one screen was live. Emma and I froze. It was showing us standing in the basement, staring at the monitors. And then, on the screen behind us, in the shadows near the staircase, something moved. I couldn't breathe. On the screen, just behind us, something shifted in the darkness near the stairs. It was slow, barely noticeable, but it was there. A shape, a shadow, someone standing just beyond our sight. Emma grabbed my wrist. "Turn it off." Her voice was barely a whisper. I couldn't. My hands wouldn't move. I just kept staring at the screen, waiting for whatever was behind us to step closer. The basement was dead silent. I didn't hear footsteps. I didn't hear breathing, but I felt it. We weren't alone. Emma's grip tightened. She was shaking. Then, the monitors started glitching. The images flickered, jumped between frames. The cameras weren't just playing recordings anymore. They were showing something else. On one screen, I saw a family sitting at the kitchen table. A man, a woman, a child. They looked like they were frozen in time, mid-conversation. Another screen, the living room. A different family this time. A man sitting on the couch, a woman standing near the fireplace. Her eyes weren't on him. They were on the camera, staring at us. Screen after screen, family after family. People who had lived here before. All of them caught in the same endless footage. But one of the screens was different. It was still showing us, in real time, standing in the basement. Only now there was something else. The shadow behind us was no longer still. It was closer. My stomach dropped. I turned. Nothing was there. The stairs were empty. The basement was empty. But on the screen, the shadow took another step forward. I grabbed Emma's hand and ran. I didn't think, I just moved. We bolted up the stairs, taking them two at a time. I didn't dare look back. I felt like if I did, I'd see something right behind me, reaching for my shirt, ready to pull me back into that watching darkness. We reached the top and slammed the basement door shut. Emma locked it. What the hell is happening? I pressed my ear against the wood, listening. My heartbeat was so loud, I could barely hear anything else. Silence. For a moment, nothing happened. No sound, no movement, just silence. Then, from the other side of the door, click. That same quiet, mechanical click. The sound of a camera turning on. And then, my phone buzzed. A message. "You shouldn't have run." I didn't want to look at my phone. I knew what I would see, but I did it anyway. My hands were shaking as I lifted the screen. The message was still there, glowing in the dim light. "You shouldn't have run." Emma was pacing now, her breaths coming fast. "We need to get out of here. We have to break a window, or..." Then the TV turned on. We both jumped. The screen lit up with static, flickering for a second before switching to a live feed. The basement. The monitor wall was still glowing down there, still playing the footage of all the different families. But now, The camera was zooming in, slowly, panning toward the chair in front of the screens. At first, it was empty, but then the screen glitched just for a second, and suddenly someone was sitting there, not moving, not breathing, just watching the monitors. Emma gasped, "Who is that?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. My brain wasn't working anymore. My body felt locked in place. Then the person in the chair turned their head, not toward the monitors, but toward the camera, toward us. They weren't far away, just down the stairs, just behind that door. Then my phone buzzed again. "Come back down." Emma grabbed my wrist. "We're leaving. Now." I nodded. I didn't care how. We were getting out. I ran to the nearest window, grabbed a chair, and swung. The glass shattered instantly. Cold night air rushed in. For a second, I felt relief. Then, the lights cut out. Total darkness. The house was silent again. The only sound was our breathing, fast and panicked. I grabbed Emma's hand and helped her climb out through the broken window. The second our feet hit the ground outside, I expected something to pull us back in, but nothing did. We ran. Across the yard, through the gate, down the street. Neither of us looked back. We didn't stop running until we reached the car. I fumbled for the keys, got the engine started, and peeled out of the driveway, so fast the tires screeched. Only then did I finally look in the rearview mirror. The house was still there, dark, silent, watching. The basement window was glowing faintly, and for just a second I saw it, a figure standing right in front of the glass. Not moving, not following, just watching us leave. We didn't stop driving, not for miles, not until we reached a gas station on the outskirts of town. I pulled into a spot, killed the engine, and for the first time we just sat there. Neither of us spoke. My hands were still gripping the wheel, my knuckles white. Emma was staring straight ahead, breathing fast, her fingers digging into her knees. It didn't feel real. The house, the cameras, the thing sitting in the basement. But my mind kept circling back to one thing. It had let us leave. That should have made me feel safe. It didn't. Emma finally turned to me. "What now?" I didn't know. We couldn't go back. We couldn't stay here forever. And we sure as hell couldn't tell anyone the truth. "Hotel," I said finally. "We'll figure it out in the morning." She nodded, but I could see it in her eyes. She didn't believe morning would make a difference. Neither did I. We found a cheap hotel nearby, the kind with flickering neon lights and a front desk guy who didn't ask questions. We got a room, locked the door behind us, and collapsed onto the bed. We should have felt safe. But the moment I lay down, I felt it again. That same feeling from the house. Like we were being watched. Emma must have felt it too because she grabbed my arm. "Check your phone." My stomach twisted. I didn't want to, but I did. And there it was. A new message. "You can't run." I sat up so fast the bed creaked. My heart was pounding. Emma whispered, "Check the camera app." I almost said no. Almost pretended we were just imagining things. But my hand was already moving. I unlocked my phone, opened the app. There was one live feed still streaming. I stared at the screen. My breath caught in my throat. It wasn't the house. It was our hotel room. Emma and I sitting on the bed. Right now. I turned the phone around, scanning the room. I checked the ceiling, the vents, the TV. And then I saw it. A tiny black camera tucked into the air vent above the door. It wasn't from the hotel. It was the same kind from the house. My phone buzzed again. Another message. "I told you. I never left." I felt sick. My stomach twisted as I stared at the tiny camera in the vent. The same cameras from the house. The same ones that had followed us, recorded us, watched us. Emma's voice was barely above a whisper. "How?" I had no answer. My brain wasn't working. Nothing about this made sense. We had left. We had gotten away. Hadn't we? But the camera was here, and so was whoever was watching. I stood up slowly, not taking my eyes off the vent. Then, with shaking hands, I grabbed a chair from the corner of the room, climbed up, and ripped the camera out. The moment the wire snapped, my phone buzzed again. A new message. I didn't want to look, but I did. That won't help. Emma backed up until she hit the wall. This isn't happening. This isn't real. I wanted to tell her she was wrong, that we could fix this, but the truth was, I didn't know how. The room felt smaller. The air was thick. It felt just like the house had, like the walls themselves were closing in, watching, listening. I had to think. Fast. We need to go, I said. Another hotel. Another town. We'll keep moving. Emma cut me off. It won't matter. She was right. Whatever this was, it had followed us here. It wasn't just about the house. It was about us. But why? I ran a hand through my hair, trying to slow my breathing. The cameras, the old security system. Maybe there's a way to track them. Emma gave me a look, but I was already moving. I grabbed my phone, opened the security app that had somehow appeared the night before, the one that had started all of this. There had to be something, a signal, a source, anything. At first, it was just the same dark screen with the words live feed active. But as I scrolled, I noticed a small line of text at the bottom. IP address. Connected. Connected to what? I clicked it. A loading screen appeared. Then a list. Names. Addresses. Dates. I scanned through them, my heart racing. Some of the names I recognized, ours. The previous owners. The people from the video. And then I saw something else. The first name on the list. It wasn't just an address. There was a live link next to it. I clicked it. The screen changed. A video feed appeared. At first, it was just darkness. A blank, empty room. Then, movement. Someone stepped into view. A man. Not old, not young. Average. Brown hair, plain clothes. But the moment I saw him, I felt something deeply wrong. His back was turned to the camera. He stood completely still, facing a wall covered in monitors. Then, slowly, his head tilted to the side like he was listening. Emma whispered, "Who is that?" I didn't know. Then, on the screen, the man moved. He didn't turn around. He didn't walk away. He stepped backward, like he knew we were watching, like he wanted us to see. And then, without warning, he snapped his head toward the camera, straight at us. I dropped the phone. Emma was already at the door. "We need to leave. Now." I grabbed my phone off the floor and ran after her. We didn't pack anything. We just ran. Through the parking lot, into the car. I barely got the key in before the engine roared to life. We sped out onto the highway, the hotel disappearing behind us. Emma's hands were shaking. Where are we going? I didn't know. I just kept driving. And then, as the road stretched ahead of us, my phone buzzed again. I swallowed hard and glanced down. One last message. "See you soon." I didn't look at my phone again. I couldn't. My hands were tight on the wheel, my foot pressing harder on the gas. The road stretched ahead, dark and empty. The further we got from the hotel, the better I felt. But not Emma. She kept checking the mirrors, glancing behind us like she expected to see something following. I couldn't blame her. "Where are we going?" she asked again. I shook my head. I don't know. But we both knew the truth. It didn't matter where we went. It had followed us once. It would follow us again. My mind kept going back to that video. That man standing in the dark, his head snapping toward the camera. The way he just knew we were watching. Was he the one behind this? Or was he just another piece of something bigger? I didn't have answers. But I knew one thing. He wasn't done with us. The silence in the car was thick, pressing down on us. Then Emma grabbed my arm. "Stop the car." I nearly swerved off the road. "What? Why?" "Just pull over." Her voice was sharp, urgent. I slammed the brakes. The car skidded to a stop on the side of the road. Emma was breathing hard. She pointed at the rearview mirror. I turned and looked. At first, I didn't see anything, just the empty road behind us. The glow of the hotel was gone, swallowed by the night. Then my stomach dropped. Far back, almost too far to see, a single headlight flickered on. Not two, just one. It wasn't moving, just sitting there in the distance, watching. Emma whispered, "It's him." I didn't ask how she knew. I just felt it. I pressed my foot down on the gas. The tires spun, kicking up gravel as we sped forward. The headlights stayed behind, not chasing us, not moving at all, but I knew it would. I didn't know how long we drove. Minutes? Hours? Time didn't feel real anymore. The road stretched forever, nothing but trees on either side. Then my phone buzzed again. I almost didn't check, almost threw it out the window, but my eyes flicked down. One message: "You can't run forever." I clenched my teeth. My fingers tightened around the wheel. Then, Emma screamed. I looked up and slammed the brakes. A man stood in the middle of the road, not running, not waving for help, just standing there. His head was tilted at that same unnatural angle. His arms hung limp at his sides. And then, as our headlights washed over him, he did something that made my skin crawl. He smiled. Emma grabbed my arm. "Go, go." I didn't think. I hit the gas. The car lurched forward, but the moment we moved, the headlights flickered, and he was gone. Not hit, not running, just vanished. The road was empty. Emma was shaking. "This isn't real. This isn't real." I didn't say anything, because I wasn't sure anymore. We kept driving. No plan, no destination, just away. But deep down, I knew the truth. There was no way. He wasn't following us. He was ahead of us, waiting. We kept driving, but the road felt wrong. The trees on the side of the highway blurred together, stretching endlessly. Emma gripped my arm. "Do you recognize that?" she whispered. I frowned. The gas station we had passed miles ago was back. The same flickering sign, the same empty lot. My throat went dry. No, that's not possible. We had been driving straight. We hadn't turned around. But somehow, we were back where we started. I slammed my foot on the gas. The car roared forward, speeding down the road. I didn't know where we were going anymore. I just needed to get away. Emma clutched her phone, checked the camera feed. I almost yelled at her to stop, but then I saw her face. She was pale, shaking. I glanced at my phone. The live feed had changed. The house wasn't on the screen anymore. It was our car, a live feed of us driving, right now. Emma, me, the empty road ahead, and then something in the back seat moved. My blood turned to ice. I gripped the wheel tighter, forcing myself not to look. Emma did. She screamed. I finally turned. The back seat was empty. But on the camera feed, we weren't alone. A man was sitting in the back. The same man from the basement footage. From the road. From the house. His head was tilted. His mouth curved into that awful smile. Then my phone buzzed. One last message. "Come home." And then, the car engine died. The dashboard went dark. The wheels locked. We were still going 70 miles an hour, but suddenly it was like something had grabbed the car and was pulling it down. The last thing I heard before everything went black. That same mechanical click. I woke up to silence. My head was pounding. The air smelled stale, familiar. I sat up. My body ached. My arms, my legs, everything hurt. Then I saw the walls. Wooden floors. Old wallpaper. The faint red light of a security camera in the corner. No. I scrambled to my feet. Emma, where was Emma? Then I saw her, standing in the hallway, frozen, staring at the TV screen. I turned. The TV was on. The same security footage as before. The basement monitors. The chair. The families that came before us. And then the camera changed. It was live. It was us, standing in the house, watching the screen. Emma's voice was barely a whisper. We never left. I couldn't breathe. My mind was racing, trying to make sense of it. Then I heard footsteps. Slow, deliberate, coming from the hallway. I turned. A door was open. The basement. The same basement we had escaped. Except now, we weren't outside running from it. We were inside. And we were exactly where it wanted us to be. The screen flickered. One last image. A new tape being recorded. A label flashing at the bottom. New residents, file active. And then, the camera turned off. Final shot. The house sits silently in the darkness. Empty. Waiting. And then, click. A red light turns on in the corner of the living room. A new camera. Watching. Waiting. For the next family to move in. That's the story of the house that watches. A house that doesn't just record its residents but keeps them trapped forever, turning them into nothing more than footage on a screen. No matter how far they ran, they were always exactly where it wanted them to be. Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you have a terrifying story of your own, something strange, something unexplainable, send it to us. We might just share it in the next video.